Previously on this channel, we discussed the topic of write about what you know. Today I want to talk about what you should write about. A thought that I wrote down recently is write about mundane stuff with a fascinating packaging. When I was thinking about the advice, write about what you know, I basically realized that the reader is not looking for a specific description of a specific, a very detailed description of, for example, how a chef works, which puts the author in the position of actually having to research how a specific profession does something. That's basically how that phrase, write about what you know, came into play, because the assumption was that because you write about, a skill that you know, you should be able to explain that. But in my opinion, it's not these detailed descriptions of a job, for example, of how a chef works, how a chef creates a specific fancy dish. That's not what the audience is looking for. What the audience is looking for is, and again, I repeat that basically in every video, the audience is looking for different types of experience. They want to feel a specific emotion. They want maybe to see something beautiful, hear something beautiful. They want to, all of the things that are beautiful in life, all of the things that are frightening in life, they want to experience that. And they want to experience the most impactful side of all of these emotions, whether it be realistic or whether it be a fantasy situation. They want the most impactful experience, and that's what you need to provide as an author. But what do I mean by write about mundane stuff with a fascinating packaging then? What I'm trying to say is, because the audience is not looking for a detailed description of a specific job, the audience is not looking for an instruction manual. They want to feel emotions. They want to see the world from a different perspective, maybe from a chef's perspective, that could well be. And they want to feel the same emotions. Because on the level of emotions, that's where basically the interaction between character and audience happens. Because the audience is able to understand the emotions that are transferred over to them through the story and then feel it. And that's what they are looking for. What I'm basically trying to say is that everything that, to some degree is normal in life, and I include both positive and negative experiences, all of this stuff happening to us on a daily basis. Maybe it doesn't happen on a daily basis, but maybe it happened once a year. It happens once in a lifetime, like a divorce, for example. All of this mundane human stuff, that's what the audience is looking for. Because that's the experience they have in their version of their life. And what they are trying to see is a different perspective. They want to see the perspective of that specific character the writer creates. But now I also said mundane stuff with a fascinating packaging. And that's where the beauty of writing comes into play, because we as writers, we have the amazing job to basically think up the most fascinating scenario we can think of. For example, when I try to come up with an interesting location, with a location that fits what happens to the characters, to the scenario that I'm writing about, I can think maybe the most beautiful place on this planet, which I haven't visited before, but which I know from pictures, all of the beautiful landscape that exists on this planet condensed into one specific location that perfectly fits the setting of my story. This is what we actually can think about as authors, and that's basically what we come up with. And we can look at existing examples from the real world, and we can even go beyond that. We can go beyond the realistic, beyond whatever is possible due to the laws of physics. If you are trying to write things, you shouldn't think that you somehow need to provide something complicated, which ends up being an instruction manual. You can write, even though you can't cook, you can write about a chef's life. To some degree, you would need to know how the job of a chef works to make it realistic, of course. But beyond that, the audience just has to understand, because not all of them are chefs, they just need to understand and see that, this description of a chef's life is realistic. And then everything that happens to that specific person, that's basically happening on an emotional level, on a level that every one of us experiences. Write about what you know, as I said in a previous video, is not about specific skills or specific knowledge that we are trying to describe. It's about experience. And that enables and hopefully enables you to write, to start writing, because you realize that you have all the necessary tools already on your hands. And if you appreciate this advice, I would like you to like this video, and I hope I can see you in the next. Thank you.